Rev up your engines! With the high price of gasoline today, I'm going to show you some tips on how to get better gas mileage, and some of these tips might surprise you. Correct oil when you change your oil and keep it clean. You can see, use energy conserving 5W30. Lighter weight oils have less friction. Some of them are 0W10 these days. You use what it's made for. You don't want to put a thinner one and one that uses a little heavier like this 530, like a 010, because the engine wasn't designed for it. And the modern engines are designed to get better gas mileage. But whatever you do, use full synthetics. Better. It's got less friction. And change your oil frequently. Dirty oil has more friction. More friction means worse gas mileage. I don't care what anybody says. They can say, oh, you're going to change your oil every 10, 15,000 miles. No. I change mine every 5 with full synthetic castor oil. I like castor oil. There's plenty of good oils out there. You can use whatever you want. But you'll want to keep it clean. And speaking of clean, you want a clean air filter. Now you can see this one is clean, but if you wonder, it's bright. You can see through it. If it was all dark, you know it's bad. Realize for every gallon of gas your car burns at sea level, it also burns 1,476 cubic feet of air. You block that air, your gas mileage is going down the toilet. Change your filter a lot. Gets dirty, and if you're cheap, knock it off, get a shop vac, suck the dirt off, put it back in, and you can see through it. You don't care. But keep it clean if you want good gas mileage. And here's a tip when you put your air filter back in. Make sure none of these vacuum lines fall off. Many cars change the air filter, the vacuum line will fall off, then you get a code for evac system leak, and you're going to look all around. It's because one of these hoses fall off. Make sure they stay on nice and tight when you put the filter back on. Your tires actually have quite a bit to do with your gas mileage. And here's something that might surprise you. Don't run out and get brand new tires thinking, oh, new tires, I'll get better gas mileage. Old tires get better gas mileage than new ones. Because as the treads wear, there's less friction because of tread wear and the depth of the tread. Brand new tires with thick tread actually get worse gas mileage. Believe it or not, it's true. Now, it's generally not a phenomenal amount, but realize this. I had a customer with a Toyota Prius years ago. The tires were getting worn, so they bought new tires. They were fanatics about their gas mileage. They found out they actually got 3% worse gas mileage with brand new tires. Granted, that's extreme. Most times you'll lose 0.6%, but it can be up to 3% worse gas mileage because the new tires have more friction. It all has to do with the treads. Realize the race cars, their fancy tires don't have any treads on them at all. Now, of course, don't go out and buy treadless tires because they'd be useless in the rain and you'd slide all over the place. And if you don't believe me, go to one of those little go-kart places. They got drag slicks with no treads on them, right? Go there when it starts raining. They're gonna slide all over the place. You need tread, but the tread on new tires actually puts out more resistance and you'll get slightly worse gas mileage. So don't think I'll get new tires to get better gas mileage. You're gonna get a little bit worse. You don't want to drive around on bald tires, it's dangerous. But say your treads are worn halfway, leave them alone. You'll get worse gas mileage if you put new tires on. And to get the most out of your tires and gas mileage, get an air gauge, measure your pressure first thing in the morning when it's cold. Simple to do. These are 32 PSI, all four. I just filled them up the other day. If your tire pressure's too low, you get a lot more friction. Now, granted, let's say you're stuck in the sand on a beach. You can let a bunch of the tire pressure out. They'll be flatter, and you can get out of the sand or mud, whatever you're stuck in. But then immediately, you want to blow them back up again. And if you put too much pressure in, then the middle of the tire bulges out more and it will get worse gas mileage then too. Plus your tires will wear out faster, the middle of it wear out faster. If you're low on pressure, the outside wears faster. If you're too high in pressure, the middle wears faster. So you want it to ride right. It's a regular car, I put in 32 PSI cold. You do it cold, first thing in the morning, because as tires heat up, the pressure goes up. As they get hot, if you drive on a highway, check them right away, you'll think, oh, my pressure's too high. No, it isn't. They get hot, the pressure goes up. You check it first thing in the morning when they're cold. And let's say you are buying new tires, because yours are all worn out. There's various types of tires. Tell the guys at the tire store, you want to get one that has the least rolling resistance. You want a tread that works fine, but has less rolling resistance. And of course, if you're driving a truck with big, aggressive, knobby tires for off-road, there goes your gas mileage. Now I don't have a truck, but I got these off-road bicycles with balloon tires. They're very aggressive tires. So you wouldn't get the greatest gas mileage driving these on the road. But then again, this Polarna is pretty well made. It's an electric bike. And The other day, I drove it 15.6 miles. It still had 80% of its power left. I was doing pedal assist too, but I used the motor a lot. It's made for off-road, going on the sand, the beach, whatever, but you can drive it on the street. It's okay. You're not putting gasoline in it anyway. And speaking of tire size does matter. A lot of guys will put on bigger tires, bigger rims. You put in bigger tires, you're driving in town, you're going to get worse gas mileage because bigger tires weigh more, and the bigger, heavier tires have more rolling resistance, so you get worse gas mileage if you're driving stop and go traffic. But here's the crazy thing. Let's say you're a trucker and you're driving down a highway all the time at 65, 70 miles. You'll actually get slightly better gas mileage with bigger tires. That's one of the reasons those 18-wheelers have pretty big tires on them, because they're not stopping and going, stopping and going. Most of their trip is just going down the road. Once the tires get moving, they're rolling down the road. It doesn't matter how much they weigh then, because they're not accelerating. They're going at a steady speed, and it doesn't require any more energy to keep them going at a steady speed. So on a highway, bigger tires get a little bit better gas mileage. But most people don't spend their life driving on a highway in a regular car, so bigger is not better. Plus, realize one thing. Unless you've compensated your speedometer and odometer to a bigger or smaller size tire, the gas mileage you think you're getting is going to be all squirrely, because the speedometer will be giving a false reading. It'll either say that you're going more mileage than you actually are, or less mileage than you actually are, because the speedometer's set for a certain size tire and a certain size wheel. You change the wheel and tire side, unless you compensate it with one of those computers and you have a car that you can compensate them for, then your readings are going to be off. Now, back in the day when I was young, if people changed their tire size and they wanted the right speedometer speed and odometer mileage, they would change the gears. You got a speedometer drive gear. They made different size ones so you could compensate it. But today, you get a fancy computer like I have, and you can reset it for different tires on most modern cars these days, so you get the right reading. But still, if you do go for a bigger tire and a bigger wheel, you're going to get worse gas mileage in town, which is where most of the people drive all the time. Now, we're talking about gas mileage. We got to talk about the gas you're putting in the tank. If you think regular gasoline is expensive, the cheapest one you can buy, price out the high test is usually $1 a gallon more. Most cars are made to run perfect on regular gasoline. So just put the lowest grade, cheapest gasoline you can buy. More expensive cars, Lexus, Acura, Mercedes and stuff, a lot of them say, oh, use premium gas in our car. Well, any of the modern ones have computers set up so that they will run perfectly fine on any gasoline. Now, you might lose a tiny amount of horsepower, but they will run perfectly fine on regular. Take like a Mustang EcoBoost 4-cylinder engine. Maybe it'll have like 330, 40 horsepower on high test gas, and it loses 30 or 4 horsepower if you're running on regular gas, but it doesn't hurt the engine at all. So if you're in a racing mood, maybe put a tank of the stuff that costs $1 a gallon or more extra, but for regular driving, just use the plain regular gas. Most cars will run perfectly fine on it. And if you're thinking you're saving the planet buying E85 ethanol that's 85% ethanol and 15% gasoline, think again. Ethanol has 20% less energy than gasoline. So in the real world, from customers of mine who ran E85 ethanol in their cars, because of that, because of other factors, no machine is entirely perfect converting energy and gasoline into motion on the road, they got 20 to 25% worse gas mileage buying E85 ethanol. Now, of course, you can only buy it for a flex fuel car that's made for it, and unless the price of E85 ethanol, if it's 20 to 25% cheaper than gasoline, you'll break even. If it's a lot cheaper, then maybe you'd want to do that. If you saw my video I shot in Niagara Falls in the snow, the E85 ethanol was almost $2 a gallon cheaper than the gasoline. In that case, even though it gets worse gas mileage, you're talking about money versus gas mileage, so you're actually making out better when the E85 ethanol is that much cheaper and you have a flex fuel car. But you gotta have a flex fuel car and the price has to be way lower. And from my experience with flex fuel vehicles, especially the American ones, if you run them on the ethanol, E85 ethanol, 85% ethanol, 50% gasoline all the time, they run perfectly fine. But if you're switching back and forth, which theoretically you can do, you can put regular gasoline that only has 10% ethanol, or you could put E85, 85% ethanol, 15% gasoline in your tank. The computers are supposed to be able to measure how much alcohol is in the fuel and make it run perfectly fine. But in my experience in American cars, it's not the case. You keep switching back and forth between ethanol and gasoline and they start running squirrely. And if your car spends a lot of time in the garage, you don't drive it much, here's the last tip. Everything in modern cars runs off electricity. If your battery gets drained, you won't have enough electricity to run your fuel injectors, to run the fuel system pump, to run the electronic ignition system. So if your car sits a lot and you don't drive much, get yourself a trickle charger like this. Hook it up to the battery. Once you hook it up, these smart battery chargers will charge it fully and keep it fully charged all the time, so you won't run low on power, so the systems won't work correctly. There's a zillion smart chargers out there, all kinds of them. They don't cost much. They use pennies of electricity a month. Get one. Hook it up if you don't drive your vehicle much. Hey, maybe you got a motorcycle, the battery's always going flat. Do that too. It'll make the battery last longer, and you can get the best gas mileage you possibly had with a fully charged electrical system. Because the battery, on top of running all the electronics, hey, it has to be recharged by the alternator. If the battery's always low, guess what? The alternator has to work harder, and then wham. And as a bonus tip, you got air conditioning. Should you run it or not? Well, if you can stand the sweat and you're stopping and going all the time, roll the windows down. You get a little bit better gas mileage. But if you're going down the highway and you roll the windows down, the extra friction you get from the wind blowing through the car not being streamlined pretty much equals the amount of energy your air conditioner uses, and you'll be hot and sweaty, but your car will get the same gas mileage as if you rolled up the windows instead and turned the AC on. So now you know the truth about gas mileage in your car. No hype about this magic thing, you'll get better gas mileage. All that stuff is a bunch of horse manure. And of course, don't carry excess weight. If you've got all kinds of heavy crap in your car, take it out. You got 10 gallons of water stored in the back, take it out. You don't need to be driving around with all that weight in there. The more people you got in the car, the worse the gas mileage. And if you're an ultimate fanatic, don't fill your car up. Do it halfway, then when it gets empty, do it halfway, gets empty, go halfway. That little bit of weight will get a tiny bit better gas mileage, but really not all that much. The other ones make much more sense. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.